Okay, so we are going to now we've covered the personality traits that you need to have or you need to develop to be able to be successful at any kind of business. So now we're going to talk very quickly about how do you even finance your business. So say you have a great idea or you have a franchise company that you're thinking, I think I want to join, I want to buy into that franchise or invest rather into that franchise. Now you know, okay, I think I can do this. I think I have the right personality traits. The next big question that usually comes up is, how do I even finance this? So there are a bunch of ways, and I'm going to talk about 5. Now, the most obvious one is your personal savings. Maybe you've been in a fabulous job and you have a bank account that's super large. You can totally and absolutely dip into your personal savings to grow your business. I personally recommend that if you can do anything other than your personal savings, unless you have like a really, really, really fat bank account, I just recommend that you do other things. So just so that you can have cash on hand. Cash is king, like they say. When I started my business, I used all of my personal savings, and the loan that I got was really small, but then I really regretted that later because I then needed some more money to be able to grow the business, but the bank wouldn't give me a loan. The bank would give me another loan because I had already started the business. So it is by far, and I'm jumping into a bank loan already, but it is by far easier to get a big bank loan at the beginning of your business than it is to get a loan after you start your business, because once you start, they start asking you for your current profit and loss statements. How much are you actually making? How much revenue are you actually generating? But if you're applying for the loan before, then it's all based on projections. And so you can project. We all hope that our businesses will be successful and fantabulous. And so you can put that on paper and make your case for why you think the business that you're going to grow, you're going to start, will be able to earn that much, and they would make a judgment based on the projections. But once you start, it's a lot harder to get that money. So you can keep your personal savings for days like that when you absolutely need money and you just need to tap into it, versus putting all your personal savings into the business from the get-go. So I've already talked about the second one. The second thing you can do is to get a bank loan. There's something called the SBA, and it stands for the Small Business Association. And they exist to be able to help people start their own businesses. So banks are averse to risk. They do not want to touch a brand new company. They would rather that they are providing loans to more established companies. And this is where the SBA comes in. The SBA comes in and pretty much stands in as a guarantor, saying that I am going to guarantee this person's loan up to X% of the loan. The whole goal is to encourage business ownership and encourage people to start up their own business. So this is what the SBA does. There's also, just really quickly before I forget, there's also a bunch of mentorship that they provide, and this was very helpful for me when I was applying for my first SBA loan. I went to a place called SCORE, and they were able to help me build out these projections that I was able to take to the bank. And the bank really trusted the projections because they were built. They were the people at SCORE, SCORE, helped me to build those projections. So when you're considering an SBA loan, you want to go find a bank that's very good at giving SBA loans. It's typically a local bank, smaller bank. So the big banks like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and all of that are not likely to work with you. You really want to go to a community bank. The community banks are very, very good at working with small business owners, and they have all the inroads with the SBA. So we've talked about using your personal savings. We've talked about SBA loans, and you can get an SBA loan up to, I believe, $5 million. So it could be pretty big. The only thing to note is that you are going to need collateral for an SBA loan. So that could be your home, it could be property that you own, it could be a car. They just need something of value that they can put a lien on for the loan. All right. The third thing that I didn't know about until I started, and this is probably what I would have done, is that you can tap into your home. If you have a home, you can tap into your home equity. You can tap into your home equity and get a line of credit. So basically what that means is, say you have a $500,000 home. Your home is worth $500,000 and you have paid down your mortgage, and say you only owe on your mortgage, you only owe $200,000. That leaves about $300,000 that you can tap into for your business. And the great thing about this is that it's not a super complicated process, because it really is like a line of credit, and they will deposit that cash. Once you go, you have to go through the bank. The bank would be the one to work with you on this. And once they deposit that cash, then it becomes almost like a mortgage, and you have a really long time to pay it off. So you start paying off the interest first for I think the first 10 years would just be interest only, and then you start to pay down the principal for the remaining 20 years. So if you have a home and you have equity in your home, this is a really, really quick and easy way to get capital for your business. There's also something called the 401k rollover. Now, I'll be honest, this is not something that I am super familiar with, but it is possible to be able to tap into your 401k and roll that into your business. So if you think about a 401k, what really happens with your 401k is that the investment bankers take your 401k and they invest in the business on your behalf. So what you would now be doing is basically taking your money and investing your money into a business, except that the business is yours, if that makes sense. So there are a bunch of people that do this. Benetrends does this, Benetrends.com, I think, and it's called I believe it's called a Rob's rollover. So that's one option that's available. And then the very last one is just talking to your family and friends and getting them to buy into your idea and getting them to put money down to support you. You know, you would you would have to, split it. It would be like a partnership. So they would be getting a certain percentage of your company. But this is also one way, if you have friends and family that are well-to-do, that have disposable income, this is another quick way that you can use to fund your business. Okay, so that's it. Went through the 5 most common ways of funding businesses: personal savings, SBA loans, home equity line credits, 401k rollovers, and using friends and family for investments. There are probably others, but these are just the 5 that are the most common, and that's why I chose to talk about just these 5. Okay, so hopefully this was helpful. If you're not terrified yet, let's move on to the next video.